Let me start with the LA Lakers. Lakers beaten by the Wizards last night in OT 127-124. Now, that in and of itself is not a big problem. I mean, they lost to the Heat on Saturday. Again, that in and of itself, not a reason to panic. But they did lose to the Nets on Thursday night. Again, in and of itself, not a reason to freak out. But when you string those three losses together and you combine them into a three-game losing streak that the Lakers have right now, then it's a little more concerning. And then you take that three-game losing streak and you make that part of them losing 4 out of 5. Then you start to actually grip a little bit, especially when last night's loss did come in overtime. That's a game where they had a 17-point lead in the second half. When you're looking to stop the bleeding, that's something that can't happen, but it did. For instance, you finished that off last night in regulation, and then LeBron does not have to play nearly 16 of the final 17 minutes of that game. You finished that off last night, and then you don't give up even more ground to the Utah Jazz. But they were not able to do so. Again, they're going to be a different team without their second and third leading scorers. That's pretty obvious. Anybody who thought that they wouldn't be, anybody who thought they could just keep rolling right along without Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder, was just begging. So the issue is not the fact that they've lost 3 straight or that they've lost 4 out of 5. What it is they could have used a win last night. That would have been awfully nice. They could have used a win last night, and they were up by 17, and they still couldn't finish. Once again, you finish that game, you get yourself a little breathing room. Finish that game, and then you don't have to answer questions after the game about how it felt to have Bradley Beal stab you in the chest on 3 straight possessions. 3 straight possessions, and then he followed that up with this circus shot. And then he chases that with another bucket for good measure. And then you've got Russell Westbrook jumping in there, ripping the knife out of Beal's hand, and then doing a little carving of his own. All right, so at the end of the game, you're looking at Beal, and you're looking at Westbrook. Beal goes 33-7-6. Westbrook goes 32-14-9. That'll happen. Great players will do that. Again, in and of itself, not a reason for Laker fans to panic and start jamming their car flags back in the storage. But what I'm saying is this. Pretty much exactly what I said and warned Laker fans about when AD went down. The chance to win number 18 is not gone. It just got tougher, a lot tougher, because the Lakers are now going to have to exert even more energy in the regular season, coming off a short offseason in a year where they're trying to repeat. Repeating as champ again is one of the toughest things to do in all of sports. Doing it on a shortened offseason is even tougher. Doing it on a shortened offseason with your second best player dealing with a leg injury makes it really difficult. And now the team has to answer questions about whether or not LeBron is playing too much, whether or not LeBron is carrying too much of a load, something that LeBron obviously does not want to hear about. So, of course, this guy's not asking out of games or looking for his load to be managed. That's not who he is. That's not how he's wired. But sometimes you do have to protect the guy from the guy, especially that guy. And if you're going to ask that guy to work overtime, you better get a win. Otherwise, you're depreciating that asset even further, and you have nothing to show for it. Because while the Lakers have lost 3 in a row and 4 of 5, the team they're looking up at, the Utah Jazz, are straight abusing fools every single night. And look who LA has to deal with tomorrow night. That's right, the same Utah Jazz. Now, you can't win a championship in February, but you can lose one because you can make the road to that title a lot tougher. Right now, the Lakers would have to beat the Clippers in the playoffs for a chance to face the Jazz, while Utah gets to wait for those two teams to beat the hell out of each other and then take on the battered winner. for the last time. Losing last night was not a backbreaker. There is no reason to smash the panic button yet, Laker fan. But if I were you, I would know where it is, especially since you know Utah is looking to break your dudes' faces tomorrow night. Would have been nice to win that one. Would have been nice to stop the bleeding with a 17-point lead. And they couldn't do it. 1-800-636-8686. All right, so those are my thoughts, Laker fan. You tell me, how concerned are you about this? You don't want to fall too far behind. And you don't want to burn LeBron out. And LeBron's just going to keep balling.